All right, so I'm back here today with Dr. Guzman of Dream Life Medical, dreamlifemedical.com. So welcome back. I know we did a video, what was it, a few months back, introducing what you do and how it all works. How long ago was that?
Oh man, it's been a few months. It's probably August, I want to say.
Golly, time
Don't quote
flies.
me. Yeah, no, I'm happy to be here. Happy New
Yeah,
Year.
happy to have you back. I thought it'd be cool for us to do another interview. People like the last one we did, and you got some really cool insights, specifically about the new year and everybody's new what's the term when you make decisions in the new year you're going to
New Year's resolutions,
resolutions.
that
That's
time of the
right.
year.
Everybody's got
Yep.
these New Year's resolutions, and I'll bet number one for everybody is I'm going to get healthier. I'm going to make my life we're all going to have a banging body for 2026. I'm going to fix everything. So I thought it'd be cool to talk to you and kind of center that a little bit around maybe how sleep affects that, and maybe how people could, work towards those goals, but also to keep in mind there are some things that they could do. In this video, I was hoping to go over a few things in relation to that. First of all, why people fail potentially with their resolutions when they have, lack of sleep and things like that. What are some of the different like hormonal things that are the clinical aspects of it, and how they might can affect people when they're not getting enough sleep. And then a little bit about how sleep and better sleep might affect overall health, and then in turn your energy levels and what you're able to produce and do in this new year. And then a little bit about CPAP, how that might play into it, and then maybe some alternatives for people that don't want to go down the CPAP route if they've got sleep apnea. So if it's okay with you, we will fire up with,
Yeah.
first off, why people fail when they've got a lack of sleep to hit these new resolutions.
Yeah, I think sleep is vital to every aspect of our health, right? It's when our body repairs, not just like physically, our every cell in our body goes through repair during sleep, but our emotional regulation, our cognitive processing, right? Our memory, all of that is consolidated during sleep. So it's like when your body needs that maintenance, right? And so if it wasn't vital, we wouldn't do it. It wouldn't be part of nature. So when we start a New Year's resolution, often we're talking about health. Often we're talking about our metabolic health. I'm going to lose a certain amount of weight, or I'm going to start prioritizing sleep. I'm going to get that snoring checked out potentially that my wife has been complaining about that maybe got worse over the holidays with more alcohol consumption potentially. So all of that, we're starting the new year. We're blank slate, right? We're going to start over and fix ourselves. And I think the way we approach those goals is really important so that we don't frame it as either success or failing, right? But it is true that most of us start with a really good intention of, I'm going to create these new habits in my life. And then by February, most of us, like something else took over, right? Like job got really busy, a new relationship, a new whatever, right? Like something happens, you travel for work or routine changes, and you can't go back to those like very intense nutrition patterns, maybe a diet that you started or dry January ended. So now it's February. We don't have to think about dry January. So the way that I like to implement goal setting is going back to the reason, right? Like why is the health important to you to do something different about? And that actually is a more, I shouldn't say success, right? Because I'm trying to get away from like either you're doing it all right or doing it all wrong, but rather like what small habits can I implement that are sustainable actions into the things that I can control. So when I talk about weight and how sleep impacts that, it's genetics, right? A tendency to gain weight is genetic. It's hormones for women after pregnancy or around the time of perimenopause and menopause. We can't change those factors. Then there's our sleep, which we do have some control over. We don't have control over sleep apnea, for example, right? And so we have control over our sleep duration potentially, but the sleep quality is just as important. And the sleep timing, right? If we have trying to keep if we want to keep as a regular routine of a sleep schedule as possible, we can control some of that. Then we have our nutrition patterns and our movement patterns and psychology and our executive function, how we make decisions about the things that we do each and every day is directly impacted by our sleep. So if we're sleep deprived, we get frustrated easily, we're irritable, we're more likely to reach for something high carb or high sugar because we're stressed. We may have stress eating patterns, emotional eating. So all of it is tied together, and sleep is that time where your body can do its maintenance, right? And get ready for that next day.
Yeah.
So sleep is the foundation of
Yeah,
health
and
behavior.
before I get into asking you these things I don't quite understand, like the different hormones that in my little research here jumped out. When you were talking about being sleep deprived, I immediately jumped to, and I'll just confess today, I've had two energy drinks. So like I know I'm probably killing myself, but I immediately think to everybody I know, and we all are just grabbing an energy drink, anytime we're tired, and whether that's from sleep apnea or lack of sleep or whatever. Um, what do you think about those?
Yeah, I mean, they have a bunch of different vitamins and all of these potentially herbal supplements plus caffeine, all of the stimulating stuff. They put it all into one juicy, delicious, sugary thing. And so it's the downside is how what we're doing to the nervous system, right? When we're putting in a bunch of caffeine, we're probably causing vasoconstriction of the blood vessels. So blood pressure is likely to increase. So we increase that sympathetic nervous system and blood pressure probably goes up over the long term. I would imagine your sleep is impacted, right? I guess in the short term, but over the long term, I think it's more about that stress on the heart from the blood pressure being high and just being in the state of essentially fight or flight is what we're inducing in that setting. Same thing with caffeine. Some people, especially with untreated sleep apnea, to get through your day, you're drinking 3, 4, 5 cups of coffee just to make it through. You're drinking coffee on your drive home to stay safe and stay awake. And so there can be a lot of consequences to untreated sleep apnea and just sleep deprivation as well.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, sorry to interject that. In fact, I got what was it here the Bloom energy drink is what I had here today. So
Yeah, what's in it? Let's look at the label.
I don't know. I chat GPT'd it the other day and I was a little
I,
concerned.
I can't remember. Yeah, the last time I took an energy drink was probably in med school.
Yeah, I
But
need to
they
I
just
need to
have
get off of those.
so many
That's
vitamins.
gonna be my New Year's resolution starting today. I'm not gonna overpromise, like you said, so it's not successful. I'm gonna cut down and slowly get better at that. It's just a bad habit.
I think entrepreneurs are particularly at risk, right? Because you have so many things on your to-do list. The time of the day is limited, and if you have family and things like that, like there's just only so many hours in a day.
Sure.
But I think
I
that's
blame everything on my three kids, whether it's
yeah,
my lack of energy or stress or whatever it is. It's all to do with them. So
yeah,
we're gonna blame them here
for
today
sure.
for my overindulgence on the energy drinks.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely.
Well,
Um,
to get back on track, I had made a note here of I bet I'm not pronouncing this right. Ghrelin and
Ghrelin,
leptin are
Ghrelin
two
and
hormones
leptin.
associated with sleep and maybe can be really affected by having sleep apnea potentially.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So even just sleep deprivation in healthy adults, like one night or 2 nights of sleeping less than, I think it was 4, 6 hours, something like that, 4 to 6 hours, has been shown to impact those hormonal uh, regulators of appetite, right? So let's say you slept 4 hours last night, probably today you are living at a little bit of a higher ghrelin level, which is the hunger hormone is the hormone that tells your appetite regulating centers in the hypothalamus in the brain that you need to look for higher energy consumption. So you're going to be hungrier and you're going to crave more likely carbs and potentially high fatty foods. So that's your body saying, hey, we have fatigue. We can combat that with more energy in the form of really easy to break down foods like carbohydrates and fatty foods. And so even for healthy adults, sleep deprivation will do that. Sleep apnea will also increase the levels of ghrelin because throughout the course of the night, you are sleep deprived. Every time you stop breathing, every time there's a pause in breathing, your brain responds by causing a hyper arousal, like an awakening signal. And so your brain takes that next breath, right? So you pause in breathing, Your brain recognizes higher levels of CO2, and there's a threshold to which you say, okay, I need to breathe, right? And your brain triggers that gasp. That's that pause in breathing followed by a gasp that a partner may hear in bed. So that frequent sleep fragmentation causes an overall reduction in sleep quality. And that means overall you're sleep deprived with sleep apnea if it's untreated. That causes that ghrelin response the next day.
Hmm.
So ghrelin, you can think of it as the growling, hunger hormone. And then leptin is the fullness signal, which is what our body fat cells make. And it's your body's energy balance hormone to tell your brain, hey, you've reached a certain level of body fat. That's your storage, energy storage hormone. And so leptin is supposed to suppress appetite. So when we increase in our body weight, leptin levels go up. What's interesting in sleep apnea is we may have leptin resistance, right? So leptin doesn't work as well to give your body that appetite suppression signal. And in that setting, that's the relationship between sleep apnea and excess body weight because your brain is not getting that signal of, hey, you have good amount of energy stores, decrease appetite. If you don't have that decreased appetite signaling go through because of leptin resistance, that predisposes to weight gain, right? So leptin also plays a role in respiratory pattern regulation in the brain. So that's how all of that is tied in. That's the combination between, or the relationship between sleep apnea, excess body weight, also sleep apnea and insulin resistance and weight gain. So that's that metabolic explanation.
Okay,
Try to
cool.
keep it
Yeah,
as
no,
clear as I
that's very
could.
helpful. I've made the note of it
Yeah,
here and was not really sure how to explain that. So that was very thorough. Thank you. And I want to tell
yeah,
people for sure while they're listening to this, if you want to speak to Dr. Guzman about your sleep, they can find you at dreamlifemedical.com, right? And
yep.
you
And I see
do
patients virtually if you're located in Florida and Georgia.
cool. Okay. So people can reach out to you, they can set up appointments and when they
Yeah,
want to get into this kind of stuff, they can do it with you directly. So just wanted to put that in there while I was thinking about it. So
absolutely.
I know CPAP is not like a weight loss tool, and I know there's nothing to say that people start on CPAP and they become supermodels. But in describing what people are experiencing with sleep deprivation and how it affects their overall health and the feeling of hunger and all that other stuff, can CPAP play a role in helping with that, or how do you see that?
Yeah, I think the evidence is very clear that CPAP improves quality of life. It improves daytime function, right? Especially somebody who has daytime sleepiness from their sleep apnea. So you're gonna feel more awake. You suddenly feel rested, is what I hear from patients, right? Like, oh my God, I haven't slept that well. I don't even remember the last time I slept that well, right? So suddenly it's like a whole new take on your day to day because you're thinking more clearly. You're not going through your day in this brain fog, tired, irritable state. You can actually feel a little bit more empowered in your health choices because you're not in survival mode, essentially. Your brain is not acting from an emotional state of like, I'm just getting through my day. It's going to be able to act from a more regulated, logical state of like, hey, how do I want to take care of my body today? Do I want to move my body? What do I want to eat today? What do I have? You have more capacity for that decision making in the setting of treated sleep apnea. Um, the CPAP also can lower blood pressure slightly. That's what the data shows. But in terms of making an impact on body weight specifically, it doesn't. I think behaviorally and cognitively, it makes a huge impact into how somebody can then care for themselves day to day.
Yeah, I can think of two examples. Obviously, I've dealt with thousands of CPAP users over the years, so I've heard everything from this is a crock and it doesn't work for anything to it completely changed my life and everything went wonderfully from then on. But specifically, my wife, who's a bit of a health nut, she she genuinely doesn't make it to the gym if she doesn't wear her CPAP. She's also a little bit grouchy. But it's a big part of her day, really, the sleeping at night on CPAP. If she doesn't, she genuinely can tell a huge difference in her ability to even just have I think the motivation, but then of course the performance as well. That's something she would cite to me often, which is why we drag a CPAP everywhere we go. But
Yeah.
and then I've got another buddy. He was up to like almost 400 pounds, big guy, football player guy, and he had to go on BiPAP because he was pretty
Mm.
severe.
Mhm.
Um, but like it was just a kind of a downward spiral all the time for him before he finally got diagnosed and got on the BiPAP. He did get it with us because he's a friend of mine, but after his name's Randy, after he got going, he started bicycling every morning, and
Mm.
maybe they just held hands to a point where he just was making this big step, and this was also the next step. But he dropped like 150 pounds over the next couple 3 years, and most of it due to just staying consistently and working out, and obviously just the motivation factor changed once he was actually sleeping, and he had severe sleep apnea. So
Yeah.
I'm not saying it was the thing that did it, but I think taking that step, especially if he, in that severity of a case, probably not sleeping at all, really, when you're, AHI is north of 50 or something, So those two
Yeah.
examples were just real world examples that I had experience with, or my wife and a personal friend of mine. But there's been countless more over the years where people just have made it a big part of their overall health and wellness.
Yeah, it's like a compounding effect, right? Because like suddenly like you're sleeping better, you're feeling better, you feel more empowered in your health, and then now you're starting to see results of, hey, like when I bike in the mornings, it starts my day right, my circadian rhythm feels better, I'm sleeping better. Maybe because I'm biking, I'm not drinking as much because I know like I won't wake up as refreshed. And so
No, he's still
all of
drinking.
these
He's still drinking. Not-
Fair enough. But I think all of those habits add on over time. And I think the more we see results, the more it like changes the identity of now he's somebody that bites, right? Like now maybe he still enjoys a social drink here and there. But
Yeah, I don't want him to get off too clean here, but no, it did make a big difference for him. And those are just two
yeah,
examples I had
huge.
backing up kind of what you had described as far as the
Yeah.
overall. But before everybody jumps on this comments and is like, Clay only talks about CPAP and that's what he wants to do, is sell everybody a CPAP. There are
Yeah.
other things
Yeah.
that can work, I guess, in conjunction with CPAP or instead of potentially. A few of them I noticed I know Zepbound has been approved as one of the what are those things called? What is that class of
The GLP-1. Yeah.
GLP-1? Yep, you hear about those everywhere. Some people use oral appliances. I've even got customers that use oral appliances when they travel, CPAP at home.
Hmm.
There's obviously weight loss surgery came up as one of the things I found, and then there's also the new Inspire implant that a lot of people are getting, where they put the that electrode thing in your neck. But if you could kind of expand on those as options, so people can say that Clay talked about something other than CPAP here as well.
Yeah, I think in a perfect world, we're using CPAP in conjunction with the most recent FDA approved medication, which is Zepbound. The reason for that is sleep apnea can cause definitely an increased risk of diabetes, insulin resistance, because we think about the stress to the cardiovascular system with every pause in breathing. That's why sleep apnea can cause increased blood pressure. Oxygen drops every time we stop breathing, and that puts stress on the heart. So there's a higher risk of arrhythmias and irregular heart cycles, irregular heart rate. So the metabolic impact of sleep apnea, the cardiovascular impact, I think those are undeniable. Then you have the daytime function impact. So I think CPAP absolutely helps daytime function, and I think we want to use that not in replacement of or just alone. But I think if there is obesity that's concomitant, using a GLP-1, what they do is they help improve insulin resistance. These has been around for 20 plus years to treat diabetes. Over the past 10 years, we've recognized how they can be used in obesity. And that helps the metabolic dysfunction, right? So we're seeing reductions in the average blood glucose, we're seeing reductions in blood pressure, we're seeing reduction in the severity of sleep apnea. So Zepbound caused like a 50% decrease in the apnea hypopnea index and the severity of the sleep apnea. But I think it doesn't necessarily replace CPAP. To make that distinction, I want patients to have both access to both treatment options. The oral appliance is good for mild to moderate sleep apnea, right? If it's severe, it's unlikely that just moving the jaw forward with the dental device to push the tongue outward, it's unlikely that that's enough to treat a severe degree. But moderate may be a good option. So it'll cut down on average about 50% the degree of sleep apnea. So not an option for everybody, and it has some downsides, right? Like jaw pain over the long term. Could change your bite, so they give you these exercises to do every morning after you remove the device, but is good for travel, as you mentioned. And then the hypoglossal nerve stimulator, the Inspired device, it's a good option for those people that just absolutely cannot tolerate the CPAP. But I think tolerance is really important to to highlight that like it's not you tried it once and you hated
Right.
it. There's a time and an adjustment period that it takes to get used to CPAP, and you want to try all the different masks, right? And so having access to your videos of like, hey, which one is a good fit for me, and what else should I be thinking about in terms of like a travel CPAP that's more comfortable to if I'm somebody that travels all the time. So there's ways to get used to that. Um, the Inspire device is a surgery, right? So I think it's an option for some people, but definitely not like first line at all.
Yeah. I've always felt like, and correct me if I'm wrong, in a lot of cases, it's the obesity that's the leading cause of the sleep apnea, right? Being overweight or too big in some way, right?
Both. So
Okay.
it's a bi-directional um, situation, right? So when we have obesity, we may have a larger neck, but we also have this degree of leptin resistance, as I was talking about. So it's like high levels of leptin, but it's not working because you have a lot of adiposity, a lot of fatty tissue, but
Hmm.
it's not working to tell your appetite regulation system, hey, you're not hungry anymore, right? There's a dysregulation of that appetite control. And so leptin resistance in sleep app and obesity can dysregulate the respiratory control system, causing more of these pauses in breathing.
Hmm.
So anatomically and physiologically, there's the cause of sleep apnea from excess body weight. But vice versa, when we have sleep apnea, we have that metabolic dysregulation of higher insulin levels, right? Higher cortisol levels from the sympathetic overdrive from those pauses in breathing, causing stress to the nervous system and the cardiovascular system. So, untreated sleep apnea, more risk of type 2 diabetes, more risk of insulin resistance, which predisposes to weight gain. So, it's a vicious circle, and it's hard to identify which one's, the chicken or the egg type
Yeah.
thing. But we want to treat both. We want to address both.
Yeah, I've always thought like if my sleep apnea was from being overweight, I would probably want to work with CPAP because if I lost the weight and in turn at least reduced or got rid of my sleep apnea, at least I could just throw the CPAP in the garbage and be like, I'm done with this thing. If you had something implanted in your neck, I feel like that's a little bit more, and maybe people don't do that for those cases. I don't quite understand when I would ever consider that, but it does seem drastic for something that you might could actually overcome through weight loss or different things like, you talked about Zepbound being one of the things that might be a permanent solution potentially, so like over time.
Long
So
term. Yeah.
I, I don't know. That's just my like layman's perspective on those options anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we still have people who don't have obesity that have sleep apnea, right? Because it
Sure.
could be like weakness of the airway muscles. We talked about that last time in women, particularly women may be like, oh, I don't have a problem with weight, but in menopause we have this decrease of estrogen. So muscles get weaker, we lose muscle mass. These muscles of the airway get weaker. And so even if you don't have a large body habitus, if your airway has a tendency to just be a little bit more floppy, right? You may be a thin person that has sleep apnea. Anatomically, if you have a jaw that is a little bit moved backwards, so retrognathia is what we call that.
Mm.
That is an increase, that's an anatomical risk factor for sleep apnea, where the oral appliance may actually be a really great treatment. Some people also have like a crowded airway just from large tonsils or a big uvula, the little thing in the back of your throat. So for some people, an ENT surgery where we reduce the tissue in the airway, that may be a good treatment option. So there's so many different causes of sleep apnea, phenotypes is what we call them. Obesity is one of the risk factors, but there's other types. And so we really have to personalize the treatment to each person.
Okay. So they need to talk to you about it, look you up, and you get them on the right
Yeah,
track.
100%.
Cool. Well, the last thing I kind of wanted to touch on is like, let's say somebody goes down this road. What's like the typical 30-day journey from somebody that's like, I'm going to get I need to do something, right? They're going to make an appointment with you. Maybe would next step maybe be home sleep testing. What would this look like for somebody trying to turn this part around?
Yeah, somebody who says, hey, maybe I've been told I've been snoring and maybe I do feel tired and I do have difficulty with feeling like I'm concentrating well. Maybe I am irritable and I'm tired and I'm getting like sleepy at a red light when I'm driving home. Like that would be a person that definitely would benefit from a sleep study. The good news is you can do a home sleep study these days, super comfortable, and there's different types that are very minimal in terms of what you have to wear. Like some of them are just a ring, some of them are just a little finger probe. Maybe like a patch on your chest to measure position, and so it's way more comfortable and accessible to do a home sleep study nowadays. That's how we would diagnose sleep apnea. And of course, CPAP is first line treatment. So we get them started with a CPAP. If people go through insurance, it can take a few days to go through the process of approval and all that to get your device through a durable medical equipment company that goes through insurance. But for somebody, for example, if you travel a lot or if you're on the road all the time or want something more accessible, I always recommend the Air Mini, right? Like get it cash, just get started with something and get the thing that's easiest for your lifestyle, right? So that you can work with that first. And it takes several nights, if not weeks, if not months for some people to use the CPAP every night and find a mask that's comfortable and feel over time, over those 30 days, maybe if you're using it every single night, by day 30, I imagine you're able to sleep throughout the night with it and wake up feeling more refreshed, more focused during the day, more energy. Just the life can change if you suddenly feel like a whole other person that, can function better.
Yeah,
So, so that's, it's a big sell for 30 days, but I think it probably takes a little bit more than that, but
sure.
I think
Yeah, we've had
significantly.
everything from night one, somebody called
Yeah.
in and wanted to send us flowers because it was some miracle, to they gave up after a month,
Yeah.
returned 2 years later to it,
Yep.
took 2 more months to get used to it. Now they use it every night, we've had literally everything. I would say overall, most people get some pretty positive results as long as I always say it's between your ears as to whether or not you're going to succeed. Like you are deciding in
Right.
your head whether or not this is going to work
Yeah.
in most cases. And as long as somebody comes to the table with the right perspective on trying to make it work, and you have a decent company, I'll shout us out, cpapmyway.com. I feel like we're going to do a good job of helping you out. Like, as long as you get support, people are willing to give you different masks, try different things, take your feedback, apply it to things that have worked in the past.
Mhm.
Probably going to have a decent end of the day 30, as long as you're ready, willing, and able to put in the effort it takes. And I'll also just give one quick shout out to one thing people never do that you got to do when you're starting CPAP. Use it during the day a little bit.
Yeah.
You don't have daytime
Get
apnea, and I
used to
know it's
this
not
thing
going to do
on your
anything for you,
face.
but
Yeah.
yeah, just get used to it. You wouldn't want to
Yeah.
learn calculus as you're going to
Yeah.
bed, right? So
Yeah.
like when you're learning how to
When you're
breathe on
tired
something
and you
new,
just want
yeah,
to
you're
sleep,
annoyed,
like,
you're aggravated. I
yeah.
know I would be. I'd probably give up immediately.
Yeah.
Turn on your favorite Batman movie or something and put the thing on and forget
Yeah.
you've got it on and just get accustomed to it. And that will help you tremendously. Just as a quick plug for people out there struggling to get started on CPAP.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it's about the reason why you're doing something, right? Like I'm a doctor, so yeah, I recommend this, but don't do it because your doctor told you to, right? Do it because it's meaningful to you to feel differently day to day, to not necessarily need all this caffeine to for your function, right? And I think that is what will drive behavior to actually stick over time because you're wanting it for you. And I
Mhm.
think that's the biggest change.
Cool. Cool, cool, cool. All
Yeah.
right. Well, this was awesome. Thank you. Thank you for your
Thank
time
you
again.
for
Dr. Guzman, dreamlifemedical.com. If you want to talk to her, she wants to talk to you, get set
okay.
up on her website and you can start the path forward on finding out what's going on with your health.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me, Clay. I
Yeah.
appreciate you.
Good to see you again. Happy New Year.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Have a good day. Bye.